Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome to My Spiritual Money RX. This is your host, Vivian Esti Guzman, the number one money magnet activator. So, we know that sometimes we tell ourselves some of those money stories, right? But we are here to clarify for you what is it that you really share with your ideal clients? Because when your message is ultra clear and you know exactly where you're coming from, who you are, and what you're meant to do in this world, you can deliver that with ease, grace, and flow. And you're going to attract those right people in your field, right? So who doesn't want that? It's kind of like, you know how the bees are attracted to honey. Literally, if you know who you are, it would be a different story every single time for your business. So I wanted to welcome here on stage with us the founder and owner of Untold Story Enterprises. And she is actually, we are very lucky to have her as our very own copywriter. And I would love to welcome to the stage Miss Amy Lancy. Hi, Amy.
Hi, Vivian. How are you?
I am great. How are you doing?
I'm doing awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, of course. So I know a lot of people, sometimes they have a job, right, or a job, and they have a real problem transitioning to become an entrepreneur or a CEO because
hmm
it almost feels like a big jump, right? So we are here to really, I guess, allow them to have some form of clarity and confidence in stepping into this role. So I wanted to ask you first about this term saturated market, right? So, can you please explain to us what is a saturated market?
So, oftentimes, when you hear the phrase "what is a saturated market," is when someone is. Oh, sorry, I hear an echo somewhere. One second.
Okay, that's okay.
So, essentially, a saturated. Let me just try this. Can you hear me now?
Mhm.
Okay, let me see if that was the echo. So, saturated market essentially is when somebody feels or perceives that they are in a sea of people who are just like them, doing the exact same thing they do, and they feel like they're drowning, and that there's a whole bunch of noise around them when it comes to trying to get to the people that they need to get to. So in this case, if you have a business, then you're trying to get to your prospects and your leads and your clients. And so I want to emphasize here that a saturated market is a perceived or a feeling because it's not so much that the market is saturated, it's just that it's a matter of cutting through the noise and
Mm,
understanding how you cut through the noise.
mm. Okay, okay. So, thank you for that. So, it's interesting because I wanted to share with the audience some of the things that we both have seen in our circle, right? So, like you said, yes, lack of focus is the number one issue I notice when it comes to people that they want to, like, they almost hate their job, right? That's why they want to get out of their job and jump into being a business owner. But they're all over the place because they have so many likes, but then they forgot that if, let's say, if I introduce myself, right, I say I'm a money magnet activator. Oh, but by the way, I also look at oracle cards and I also see your energy. And plus, I also take care of some medical issues that you may have that other professionals cannot take care of. Do you see how I just diluted what I'm doing, right?
Mhm.
Because you heard me say three different things and now you don't know what I do. But if I say I'm a money magnet activator, then you know something to do with money, abundance, prosperity. Like that's what I do for a living, right? And then the other thing that I notice with people having some issues that get in the way are their emotions. Because
Mhm.
if you have any kind of negative connotation about being an entrepreneur or a judgment, right? So if the judgment is, oh my God, I don't want to be like a man if I become an entrepreneur, but perhaps I will forget who I am as a woman. That becomes a trigger for most people. They
Mhm.
and it sometimes it's an excuse, but if it's unconscious, they don't know that they have it,
Mhm.
or they don't have confidence, right? They don't really have confidence because maybe their family didn't give them confidence, or they did not learn that tool. Lack of clarity, kind of like lack of focus, right? Who do you serve? Lack of trust.
Mhm.
Lack of trust in the divine, right? Wow. So obviously we they need to know certain things, Amy, right? So number one is to know their genius zone and what to delegate.
Mhm.
So like you said, if let's say they come out, right? Do you remember the time when you were just coming out of corporate?
Mhm.
Share with them a little bit of story of how did you even find your genius zone? Like how did you get there? Because it's not like you flip a switch and that's it, right? It's not like that.
No, it's not like that at all. So, what was really fascinating for me was that I came from the world of academia. So, as Vivian said, I left my 9 to 5, and my 9 to 5 previously was in science. And so, my all of my merit, all of my self worth was dictated by my diploma and other people's expectations.
Mhm.
And I was basically in that programming of what I needed to do when I showed up there, not so much what my core genius was.
Right.
And when I went into entrepreneurship,
Mhm.
I started to better understand my gifts, such as, my first business was as a health coach long ago, and I had no clients whatsoever. And then when I switched to copywriting, I got my first two paying clients ever after 1 week of switching over my website and everything. So the universe said, go that way.
Yeah, yeah,
And
that's a sign. Ease, grace, and flow. We don't even have to think twice, right? Because I think
exactly.
people like, I can do this, I can do this. And I'm like, no, the universe hasn't given you a sign, especially nowadays, right? It's
Mhm.
very almost instant response from
It
the
really
universe.
is. It
Yes.
really is. And I think that when I got that sign from the universe, I kept following those breadcrumbs and then realizing, I had a knack for reading between the lines when people talked and learning about clairaudience because I'm a clairaudient. So I
Mhm.
hear things that people are may or may not be saying, and
Mhm.
I hear ringing my ears from the divine sometimes. And I realized that I'm in that in between of being analytical and being creative and being intuitive, and so I was able to somehow translate what somebody over here was saying
Mhm.
who was in a different industry versus someone over here who's in a different industry and trying to translate for everyone. So so yeah, I think that what it was for me was that I needed that big old sign, as we said, and then I needed to just keep following it. And as I followed it,
Mhm.
my genius zone just kept coming out more and more and more.
Got it. Yeah, yeah, exactly. So that's the first step, right? You have to know your genius zone.
Mhm,
And then you have to know what to delegate and when to delegate. Obviously, if
mhm,
you surround yourself with the right network, which is like in this case, you're seeing us in action, we're building a strategic network.
mhm,
So I know even if my design Mars in human design, right? My genius zone, I didn't know this until I found out through something written, right? It's a document that says, hey, you're actually good at marketing. That's why you do TV shows. That's why you do things like events and hosting retreats and things like that. You're very good at that. But then
mhm,
other people are good at other things, right? Some people are very good at just really doing emails, producing certain content that really rocks. Some people are good in sales. Some
mhm,
people are really good at organizing the business. Okay. That's why I hire other people for that because we have to surround ourselves with that network? Well, obviously, you have to have a clear vision of your future. And
Mm.
we're going to do that, right? As you transition to entrepreneurship. So, a lot of times, you've heard of vision board, right, Amy? And I'm
Oh yeah.
sure, I mean, I do vision boarding every single year, like
Hmm.
actually before the beginning of the following year, because, in Chinese calendar, it changes, right? So the
Hmm.
energies change, and so we allow for the energies to move. But if
Hmm.
we're not ready for the future, right? We're like short sighted. We're just looking at, oh, where am I going to get my next client this week? That doesn't really help us much. We have to really stretch ourselves a little bit to become this entrepreneur, right? And
Hmm.
have a bigger vision for what we're building. Like you can't build a house and say, I just want a window on that side. And then you're like, well, where's the door? And where's the other walls and the roof? Can you see that when you're transitioning, right? So
Oh yeah.
I mean, in corporate America, for example, you know exactly when you come in, this is what to do, right? Say hi, open your email, send these particular things. There's some specific to-do list. Isn't that how corporate works? Because I
Oh yeah.
was,
Oh yeah. You're assigned a task list. You have a defined role,
mhm,
and anything outside of that defined role needs to be you need to ask permission from someone higher up to go after something that's outside of your scope.
yes. And I
Hmm.
think that's what the entrepreneurs, the wannabe entrepreneurs, they really don't like that box, right?
Yeah.
They want to be creative. They want to live their purpose, but then
Mhm.
they also get lost in the sea of the bigness of that reality.
Yes. Hmm.
And then we forget to delegate, right? So let's review that again. You have to know your genius zone.
Hmm.
For me, it's really what is 80% of the work that you need to be doing in your business. Because if you don't know that, unfortunately, you're going to get lost. You
Hmm.
have to build a strategic network to surround yourself with the right people that actually complement your skills, right?
Hmm.
Not compete, but complement your skills because you're not good at everything. I'm not
Hmm.
good at everything. I'm good at certain things and I stay in that lane. And then create a clear vision for the future. All right. So now, Amy,
Hmm.
why is it important to have a clear message? Like, okay, so I just became a new entrepreneur, for example,
Hmm.
and here I am doing Facebook Live, social media, and I kind of want to like maybe do some dancing. And then you're like, is that going to confuse my people? Like, what's going to happen if I don't know what I'm relaying to them?
Exactly, exactly. And you also touched on this, the answer to this question earlier when you had the example of, "Hi, I'm Vivian. I'm a money magnet activator, and I read oracle cards, and I do all these other two things that I'm listing off." And so when you have a clear message, you're able to let people know what is it that you really do, the kind of business that you're really in, who you really help, why
Mhm.
you do it, any unique selling propositions or unique selling points, like what makes you different than the next person that does something similar. When you're able to have a clear message that hits all of those points, people just understand right away. You know, who they may know that may help you, who they may need to connect you with, whether or
Right.
not, and most importantly, whether or not they need you.
Yeah, yeah. They have to self-select or self-deselect.
Exactly.
That's
Hmm.
really my intention, right? When I go out live or do these TV shows, we really want to for them to understand and say, "Hey, I like that lady. I want to work with her."
Hmm.
Without so many other like but, because that cancels out the first intention, the first sentence that they said when they have a lot of buts. That, did you guys hear that? That's important. You don't say, I would like to work with that money magnet activator, but okay, so you just cancel that first sentence you said. But I don't have the funds right now, or I don't think I deserve that kind of lifestyle, right?
Hmm.
All right. So
Absolutely.
last is, how do you create a clear message that stands out and cuts through the noise? So, for example, you found out that you're really good at copywriting, right?
Mhm.
So, how did you do that? Can you please help us understand that journey? How do you cut that noise at all?
so so how I understood I was good at copywriting was when I was trying to get my health coaching business off the ground, and I had to invest in other programs to learn what is sales and marketing and running a business. Like, what does that mean? Because in the world of academia and science, they don't teach you any of that. So I had to invest in my own programs, and along the way I learned what copywriting was and had a natural knack for it, and I loved doing it for my own business. And it was then that a business coach of mine saw that I was not taking off in the health coaching business. And she just said, Amy, when your friends and family ask you for help, what are they asking for help in? And I said copywriting without thinking about it, or just sorry, but just writing in general. And she said, I'm going to challenge you to switch over. So I had someone on my side to veer me in that direction. Now, how do we create a clear message that stands out and cuts through the noise? You have to have four different components. And the first one is to know what business you're in. So, what industry are you in? What are you really doing? If you're doing five or six different areas that are diametrically different, how do you put them all together? Are you a training company? Are you a consulting company? Are you in health and wellness? So, it helps to know what business are you really in. So, that's number one. Number two is you have to know what your offers are. Are you offering classes? Are you offering events? Are you offering trainings or one-on-one sessions with clients? You just have to know generally, in any of those categories, what are you offering, in what format, and what does it look like when someone asks what that is? The third thing to know is you have to know who you really help. And this is a problem that a lot of people have. And Vivian, you probably have a lot to say about this from your standpoint, from an energetic point of view, is when I ask people, what is your target market or who do you really help? They hate that question. They absolutely hate that question because one, they want to help everyone.
Yep.
And two, they don't know how to pick.
Mm. Well, I think they're afraid to make a mistake.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
unfortunately, if they have, you know how when you were a kid, right? So let's go back to that when we were children.
Mhm.
And for example, we picked something. It could be clothes, right? So I remember when I was younger, somehow I liked blue, like a aqua blue dress or clothes. But
Mhm.
my mom one time bought this bright yellow pants, those bell bottom pants, and
Mhm.
green. And she's like, look at these. They're like so nice on you. And I'm like, oh God. I remember that. I was so adamant about like, oh my God, you are not going to catch me alive wearing those colored pants. So I kind of knew exactly what I wanted, right? But it's
Mhm.
interesting because of course it's your mother, right? You
Yeah.
you depend on them a lot for, well, look, food, clothing, and shelter, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
when when they start making your choices wrong, right? It's like, what are you
Mhm.
talking about? This is the latest and greatest in the market. I'm thinking, I am not gonna wear that. And if you keep on getting rejections of some sort, or maybe your wants and needs were ignored when you were younger,
Mhm.
unfortunately, energetically, when you finally say, you know what, I'm going to live my life as an entrepreneur, that tone of voice, that recording is in your head at times. It becomes an unconscious reality or subconscious belief that, well, you're not good at making choices, so don't even
Mhm.
try. So then
Mhm.
we have this smorgasbord of choices in front of us, right? I mean, you look at Facebook or the internet and you see, click here, join us, do this, free, paid. And you're like, oh my God, I'm so confused. I don't know which to choose. So that muscle needs to be exercised because you have to learn to trust yourself again in
Mhm.
the choices you make. That's why I like adding the human design component to this, right? Because you may be conditioned by your parents or
Mhm.
society to be a certain way, but then you don't even, it almost feels like you're an imposter, right? Like, because you don't know who
Mhm.
you are. You
Mhm.
have to know who you are first. Because if you don't, your clients won't recognize you.
Yes. Mhm. And
You
you
don't
won't recognize
stand out,
them.
right? Say that again. What
And
did you
you
say?
won't they won't recognize you and you won't recognize them.
Yes,
Mhm.
exactly. And it's okay to say no, people.
Yeah.
I think we have a hard time with that, right?
Yes.
Especially when you get to the point, let's say you came from corporate and you already spent all your money, and then you're like, oh no, I just got to get this client. That
Mhm.
is from a level of desperation. And unfortunately, it's kind of like the rat will smell that from way far away and say, oh, you're desperate. Let me give you some money so that you can just feel like you can breathe. But that's really not your ideal client. We can't settle for the idea.
Yeah.
If you're not the ideal client, you have to just deselect yourself and say, this is not my tribe. I
Mhm.
don't like clarity. So then you're not my client. I don't like confidence. Okay, then you're not my client. And I don't want to have any compass or direction in my life. Great. So you're not my client. Great. Thank you.
Yes. Mhm.
I
Mhm.
like that, right? Clarity, confidence, and compass. Like,
Yes.
want
Mhm.
people to have some kind of compass. And we're providing you with a clear path, right? If this is your purpose in life, you better live it to really be happy and alive.
Absolutely, absolutely. I actually knew somebody when I asked them, why is it so hard for you to pick who to really help in your business right now? And
Yeah.
I remember she said, well, I don't want to exclude anyone.
Oh,
And immediately I knew that it was probably from a past wound of being excluded, or also that she wanted to make sure that everyone was taken care of, everyone was saved. And
mhm.
so, it's interesting. I'm in this communication business, but there are so many things that I come across that are so much deeper than just the words that people say. And
Yes,
so, only when they give me permission will I say something, but otherwise, just the power of our words can
yes.
really tell people way more than what we want to tell them. Let me just say that.
Exactly. I,
Mhm.
I think that's why no is a very appropriate response.
Mhm.
So I tell this to people, if you're not 100% yes, the
Mhm.
answer is no or not right
Mhm.
now. And I remember, how when you also purchase like big ticket items, right? So let's say a
Yes.
high coaching program, like I'm in one now that's like a 30K program, like for a year. And it's interesting because in the past, I would be so scared, right? Like, oh my God, what am I going to
Mm.
do? I don't have that money. What am I going to do with it? But the difference when you have decided and you're focused on, yes, I'm going to help these people and this is my purpose, and you don't know how the universe will deliver that to you. But when you are so certain and clear, right, and confident that it's going to happen, the universe actually delivers it to your doorstep. There is no doubt about that. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
Because you don't have time for, it's almost like, here's a distraction for you. Nope, delete.
Move on.
I,
Keep going. Don't stop.
it's done, it's done, right? So yeah, the messaging. I remember, Amy, when I was starting out, I was all over the place. You
Mhm.
remember me? We would have long phone calls, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Longer than our normal phone calls now.
Mhm.
Because now I just go, here, Amy, I need this. And okay, how do you want to, are you going to write it? Well,
Yeah.
the how is her job.
Yeah.
That's her expertise. Okay. I don't even tell her how to write whatever. I just say, this is where people are at, like for our next thing, the transition to entrepreneurship, right? This is where they're at. They're in corporate,
Yeah.
or they have a job, or maybe they have like a part-time job and they're kind of starting a business, but they don't really know how to make that leap, that jumping into corporate or having
Mhm.
a job to having their own business. So do
Yes.
you remember? So I'm going to share mine when it's true. I was unclear when I was a physical therapist, and I'm like, am I really going to do this thing? So then I first transitioned to having a physical therapy practice. And then I realized I couldn't communicate with the doctors correctly because I'm thinking of holistic healing. They're just thinking
Mm.
of to fix the person's ankle problem. And I'm like, no, they have problems with decision making. They have. And then they're looking at me like, girl, are you like crazy? What are you trying? Are you hallucinating? It's an ankle problem. I'm like, yeah, they have a decision problem. I'm looking at it from a different standpoint, and the
Yeah.
doctors are looking at it like, just do ultrasound. And I'm like, no, that's not going to do it.
I
So
would love to
this
have been a fly on the wall for that conversation.
that's another episode, right, for the ankle, because it's a decision issue.
Yes.
Most people with ankle problems have decision making paralysis. That's why we get
Mm.
swelling in that area, all those gooey stuff that happens in day to day life. And then you're like, you just make one decision that'll move you forward, and then your
Mhm.
ankle problem disappears. The thing I think is when they change that, they
Mhm.
forget to incorporate the difference. Like they don't see that decision led them to something else.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Which
yeah,
uh, which reminds me of the fourth point that I almost forgot to mention here. How
sure,
to develop a clear message is understanding why you're offering what you're offering. And when I mean why, as in what was part of your story that led you here, and also, you know, what need are you fulfilling for the people that you help, and that's their why for wanting to buy from you. So when you
mm,
think about your why, and you're having a hard time making a decision,
right,
the why can really help because it reminds you of why you started this in the first place, and also helps it can help to ground you. But if you're finding that's hard to go back to the why without getting lost in your old story, then
mm.
people like Vivian can jump in and be like, "This is how you don't get lost in your old story anytime you need to go back to your why."
Okay, so please mention the four things again. And while you're doing that, I'm going to type it here. Can
Okay.
you share with us the four things
Yes.
that they need to pay attention to, right, as they're
Yes.
transitioning? So go ahead.
So you need to know. You see my fingers? There you go. Yeah. You need to know what business you're in. So what industry are you in? You know what field of expertise are you in? The second one is you need to know your offers. You know, are you offering courses? Are you offering events? Are you offering consulting? That's the second one. The third one is, let me just double check here. Um, you need to know who you help. You know, your target audience, your ideal clients. And the fourth one is you need to know why you're doing this, your personal why, and also the why from your audience as to why they want to buy from you. Why do they think that you can meet their needs?
Okay, so, all right, so I'm going to put this in. Okay, what business or industry are you in,
Mhm.
right?
Yes, exactly.
What are you offering? And
Yeah.
by the way, I have a special gift for a lot of people who's going to take us up on this, because I want them to be clear on that, right? They're
Hmm.
offering, and who do you help? Who is your ideal client?
Hmm.
And why are you doing what you're doing?
Exactly. Hmm.
Because if you don't know why, some people, I notice this, they're just trying to run away from something.
Yes.
I mean, it's either you're running away from something or you're moving towards something. That's
Mm-hmm.
really that, right?
Hmm.
So if you have a vision, like we were talking about, so a vision is something bigger probably than you and me. That's a vision, right? So for
Yes.
example, for me in the future, I want to really help people understand what their sole purpose is as soon as they hit 11 or 12 years old. As soon
Hmm.
as you graduate from elementary school. Because if you know your human design at that time, and it's so funny, right? Sometimes you're not willing to hear. Even my children are interesting because they're like, I don't want to hear whatever you're saying. Okay, you guys explore, because some people like to explore. Now, for
Hmm.
me, it's a shortcut knowing that through astrology, human design, I Ching, and the Kabbalah. And by the way, I'm not Jewish, just to let you know. I respect all religions. But if you know what you're meant to do and be in this life, it almost just gives you this compass, this outline, right?
Mhm.
Because in the past, I'm by the way, in human design, I'm right angle cross of penetration. So people that don't like to hear the truth, they kind of don't like me very much. They actually run away from me.
Mhm.
No, I don't want to hear that. Okay, fine. But that's the truth of it, because truth has this ringtone. It kind of cuts through the noise, right? It
Yes.
almost gets to your heart when you're not in your own truth, unfortunately.
Mhm.
So people would embellish their lives with relationships that don't work, money stories that don't work, because it keeps on bringing them back to being broke. Like just over broke is
Mhm.
just to let you know. And they're not happy. Like, how can we be feeling satisfied, peaceful, surprised, right?
Mhm.
Or just feeling like we're successful? Well, it
Mhm.
depends on our human design, right? So you guys probably hear a lot of things from me. It's like, what is she talking about? So we want to invite you. So Amy, we've been doing this in the past years. We've done up level. Now we notice we change actually the title of the event, perhaps because I saw energetically that people don't even feel safe in their foundation right now.
Yes. Mhm. Mhm.
So I literally I was meditating and I saw people on quicksand. And when you're on quicksand, you feel like you're sinking, right?
Yes. Absolutely. Mhm.
So if you don't know who you are, unfortunately, the foundation starts there. You can't build a business out of thin air, up in the castle, in the clouds, and then you don't know who you are,
Mhm.
because you're going to get lost when you start adding people in your team.
Yep.
Does
Yep.
this
Because you
make
get
sense?
lost in people.
Yeah, because
Mhm.
a successful business, if you really want to get to 6 or 7 figures, like you want to be a millionaire, you want to be surrounded by the right people in your team. You can't do
Mhm.
it alone. I wish
Mhm.
you can, but yeah, you can make $1 million by yourself.
Mhm.
Sometimes, though, you're probably going to get burned out along the way. And we don't want you to get burned out. We want you to be happy, like I
Mhm.
said, satisfied if you're a generator or manifesting generator. So, like with Amy and I, what are you a generator, Amy?
Yes, I'm a generator.
Okay,
Mhm.
so she's a generator like me. We have a lot of energy, and the more we know what to put our energy to, see, there's a secret, right? The energy needs to be placed somewhere. Because
Mhm.
if you don't put it in the right place, you're gonna get tired.
Mhm.
I mean, has this happened to you, Amy, wherein you put your energy on something and then you're like, ah, you kind of deflate like a balloon at times?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's like, why aren't things moving, or why can I not understand that step? What step 2 and 3 are? I can see what step 5 is, but I don't know what step 3 and 4 and 5, 2, 3, and 4 are. And then I end up sitting there thinking, but I need to move. Like, I feel better when I'm moving,
When you're
but if I
moving.
don't know what the next stepping stones are, I feel stagnant and I have all this unused energy.
Yes, yes. So she is showing frustration, right? Or some
Mhm.
form of a dissatisfaction. So,
Mhm.
as generators, if you are feeling that way in any way, like you start complaining or blaming, or just looking at things that are not even like related to the project,
Mhm.
that is an example of frustration, because we're supposed to be
Mhm.
to respond. In the meantime, we got to be lit up in other things. So if that thing is not working, that's why we move to another venture, right? And
Mhm.
I use nature walk a lot, because when I get frustrated, I'm like, I need some fresh air. That's it.
Mhm.
I need oxygen. So then I just move into that, and that's a regular technique that I've used on a daily basis. Okay, not when I feel like it. It's on a daily basis.
Mhm.
So I have to be satisfied in order for me to be in the flow. But if you're a projector, you need to feel successful. So if everything that's happened in your life, you're not feeling successful, then you got to stop doing that. You really got to do something.
Mhm. Just stop what you're doing. Just go do the next thing. Like, just
Do the next thing. Right. So, Amy, so tell them, share a little bit of what. how are they going to change when they go to transition to entrepreneurship?
When they go to transition to entrepreneurship, they're going to realize that some of the things that they've already been thinking of have already been validated by a variety of different sources,
Mhm.
whether or not they actually accept that. So they're going to realize that. They're also going to realize that, like Vivian was saying earlier, that you can't do everything on your own, that there's a core zone genius that we all have, and
Mhm.
that the way to get to our goals faster is to stick with that core genius, and everything else needs to be delegated. There's a reason why when we think of a hermit, someone
Yeah.
who is by themselves up in the mountain and they've gone a little crazy because they've been by themselves, because they've had to learn how to survive on their own without
Yeah.
anybody's help. That's why. So we don't want to be hermits in our
Yeah.
business. That's kind of, it really is actually that. I think that's impossible to
Yeah.
build a successful business and be a hermit, unless you are a hermit and you're delegating all the other things to your team. In that case, you're not really a hermit.
Yeah.
And then also, just getting some good foundational, I don't want to say advice, information, education, on, how to go about your business, strategically and energetically at the same time. I've
Yeah.
seen some more and more businesses, combining the spiritual, energetic aspect to, the strategic point of view. But I can honestly say I've not seen anyone do it like Vivian. A lot of times people will, talk about the strategy, but they will kind of talk about the spiritual part of it. But in Vivian's events, there's energetic clearing. She explains things on an energetic level, and then she has other people from her team to talk about the strategy with her side by side. It's a really cool marriage of the two different expertise. So I think that's what it is. And we really, here's the last thing I will say. What they can realize when they go to transition entrepreneurship is that, the whole hustle culture, team no sleep, you have to hustle 24/7 in order to become successful. And the thing is that that's an illusion. That's not,
Mhm.
there will be times when there will be some tough deadlines, but you don't have to sacrifice your sleep. And in fact, that Vivian can explain to you how energetically that's
Mhm.
really bad for your success and your ability to attract abundance if you're just not
Yes.
sleeping on a
Yeah.
regular basis and you're constantly working and there's no traction. So that's the biggest thing, is that when you go to Vivian's event, you're going to realize that burnout is something that is keeping you from success, as opposed to what is commonly lauded in today's world as, oh, that's the only way to get successful, is if you just
Mm.
keep burning everything, just like you're running yourself to the ground. And
No,
no, don't
then
do
you're gonna
that.
die early because then you start having adrenal fatigue or headaches,
Yes.
some other medical stuff. Then you're gonna come to me for that, right? So the key there is really, if they don't trust their higher self
Mm-hmm.
in really driving themselves to alignment, unfortunately, it doesn't work. So we have me doing the energy work
Mm-hmm.
plus human design, and we got you doing the marketing and copywriting to really help them understand what do they need to market. Because if they don't know what that is and they're all over the place, they can't.
Mm-hmm.
And Jade Stone, our business operations manager, who's really, really good at structure, right? She's
Mm-hmm.
so clear and concise. There is no like doubtful sentence in between.
Yes.
Like she's
Mm-hmm.
just so clear
Mm-hmm.
as to, okay, so this is where you're at now. What do we do next? Right? So it's always that next step, because if you don't know your next step, you're looking at 10 feet ahead, like Amy said, but then
Mm-hmm.
you're missing where's, okay, step five is there. I got that. But, and this is one, where's the two and three and four? I think that's the missing link, is they don't know how to bridge that gap.
Mm-hmm.
I'm about to jump from my job, which is kind of secure, right? You earn the same amount of money, but you got the same headaches every single day, and you kind of get burned out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then what do I do to make that leap so that I can trust my higher guidance? Because it's leading you somewhere. You're not going to have that itch if you really don't have that itch
Mm-hmm.
to move and just jump. right? And
Mhm.
by the way, we're going to be generous today and we're going to give them this e-course on clarify your money magnet position so that they can start going and defining, okay, how does this business look like, right? Who are my clients? What is the package that I'm going to be offering? So if you guys click this link, this is a bonus. This is a bonus to clarify your money magnet position so that, yes, it's true. You might still have a job right now, but then you're like, okay, 3 months down the line, 6 months down the line, I really want to do something else. So then you don't look like you're just jumping and there's no net that appears in the way, right? You
Mhm.
want to be ready. If you're transitioning and you're thinking about this in 3 to 6 months, you probably hate your job already, you don't like it, but then you're like, oh my God, I got to feed my family. I don't know what to do. But if you can't sleep anymore, you got to start healing yourself. That's why that's why we offer a lot of those healing events and retreats to segue into this clarifying your transition. Okay? So
Mhm.
again, we want you to join us, viviandeguzman.com/transition to entrepreneurship. This is October 8 and 9, and it's going to be a 3 hour class from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Pacific time, Friday and Saturday. We would love to have you there. And if you click that link, like I said, you have this bonus clarify your money magnet position. So we're going to be doing some free webinars that first week before this starts. So
Mhm.
I'm going to have you go to Wealthy Money Mindset Facebook group so that you can join us, right? And you can hear some good tidbits of information to help you prepare. All right. Any other last words, Amy?
No, I think just that, if you have not been to a Vivian event yet, definitely do it. It's definitely something that is memorable. I've gone to it. Three of your events, 3 or 4. I
Yeah,
can't remember
you've
how
done
many
top
there are now.
level and you've also done the manifestation booster, which
Yes,
we
yes,
actually agreed we were going to do that again in November. So you got to watch out for
yes.
that healing healing event. All right.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Amy. And like I said, we love your copies. We love how you communicate with our audience. So we appreciate you in our team. And I'm unfortunately Jade cannot join us, but definitely she was in some of our TV shows. So we're gonna send that over via email as well. Thank you, Amy. You have a great day, and thank you everyone for watching. Bye for now.
Bye.